This afternoon, I'm pleased to introduce a delegation of members from the County Assembly of Elgeyo Marakwet in the Republic of Kenya who are in Arusha on a benchmarking visit. I met them this morning and I know they will meet you as well. And they are led by the Deputy Speaker, Honorable Christopher Kibol. May I introduce them to you? The delegation is led by the Deputy Speaker, Honorable Christopher Kibol. Thank you. Honorable Paul Kipiatich, Member of the County Assembly. Honorable Emily Kiprop, Member of the County Assembly. Honorable Nathan Kilimo, Member of the County Assembly. Honorable Musa Limo, Member. Honorable Jane Kaitani, MCA also. Honorable William Kiplagat, Member. Honorable Evans Limo, a Member. Honorable Shadrach Luley, a Member. Honorable Philip Kipruto, a Member. Honorable Zakaria Magut, a Member. Honorable Evelyn Kipto, a Member. Honorable Elisha Keitani, a Member. Deputy Clerk Elias Maritim. Sergeant at Arms Isaac Rotich. I hope I have not forgotten anyone. So, honorable members of the County Assembly and your staff, you are welcome to Eala and the other organs of the community. And for the Deputy Speaker, this is your second time you are visiting us. And we appreciate that every time you think we are a good place from where you can benchmark. Elgeyo Marakwet is a county with some unique qualities. It is geographically small, but it is the source of the famous runners that we know. Those who win, international competitions, most of them come from Elgeyo Marakwet. It is also the only county with a female clerk. So when I was talking to them in the morning, I really appreciated their approach to governance, but I said they can do better. So thank you so much, honorable members. I'm also pleased to welcome two guests of the Assembly invited by one of our own, Honorable Dr. Woda Jeremiah Odok. These are Dr. Philip Ezekiel Kutjok and Engineer John Both. You know, I had to cross-check if Both hasn't been misspelled. It is Both like it is written in English, but that is his name. So they are here as representatives of the Ministry of Health and National Public Health Laboratory from the Republic of South Sudan, and they are in Arusha to receive the equipment. They are here to receive the equipment donated by the EAC Mobile Laboratory Project. So thank you very much, Honorable Dr. Oda, for inviting the two distinguished East Africans to grace our proceedings this afternoon. Thank you. Just a moment. Yes, there is also a very important announcement from Honorable Dr. Damas Ndumbaro that beginning tomorrow morning at 6:30, there is going to be a golf training at the Gymkhana Club Arusha. Honorable members, you know, in this age bracket and where we are heading, golf is the option we have. Because we can't run anymore, we can't play football. So even Dr. Oburu still plays golf. You know, golf is golf is the only sport you can play at any age. And for honorable members and the senior executives, I don't think there is anything that can match golf. So please join Dr. Ndumbaro tomorrow. I already started training with him. He's a very good golfer already. And I think I'm doing well as your student. So please also join. Finally, honorable members, one of our own again, Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister Julius Maganda, is involved in some important activity of immense benefit in his constituency. Honorable Maganda is a staunch believer. So he's helping his community to build a church in Busia, in Uganda. And I think individually we could join him and lend our hand of support, because that is a very important engagement he's doing with his constituency on behalf of us all. And it's a kind of partnership we can develop to assist any of our own when you are involved in certain activities in your respective partnerships as colleagues. So those are the communications I had to make for now. Thank you.
Item number 2 on the order papers.
So on my final announcement, on a case-by-case basis, we talk to the minister. You can find an administrative way to make it easy, but I think it is understood. Thank you. Chairperson of the Committee on Accounts.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Members, good afternoon. Honorable Speaker, on behalf of the Committee on Accounts, I beg to lay the report of the Committee on Accounts on the audited accounts of the East African Community for the year ending 30th June 2018. I here so beg to lay.
Item number 3 on the order paper, bill first reading.
Thank you, Chair of Committee on Accounts. Now, Chairperson, Council of Ministers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the bill entitled the East African Community Competition Amendment Bill 2020 be read for the first time. I beg to move.
The East African Community Competition Amendment Bill 2020. Item number
Okay, the bill is referred to, yes? Which relevant committee is that? GP?
But
CTI? East African Community Competition Amendment Bill. I feel like it should be CTI. Yes. So the bill is referred to the Committee on Trade and Investments.
item number 4 on the order paper, bill first reading.
Chair, Council of Ministers.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move a motion that the East African Supplementary Appropriation Bill 2020 be read for the first time. Beg to move.
The East African Community Supplementary Appropriation Bill 2020.
The bill is referred to the Committee of General Purpose.
Procedure. Procedure. Procedure.
I can't see who is. Okay, Honorable Rosiako, yes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I'm just trying to inquire, especially when I look at the Chairperson Council of Ministers who has signed this document. We have a new Chairperson Council of Ministers by the name Honorable Dr. Vincent Biruta. Now, Right Honorable Speaker, I believe this Parliament follows the Commonwealth parliamentary system, and in accordance with the rules of this House as well. Ordinarily, the Honorable Dr. Vincent Biruta, for his or for any document signed by him as Chairperson of the Council of Ministers, should have been sworn in this House as a member of this House, so that his document, any document signed by him, is admissible. So I just wanted to inquire whether it is procedurally right for us to admit these documents in the House when the Honorable Dr. Vincent Biruta, Chairperson of the Council of Ministers, has not yet been sworn in as a member of this House. Right Honorable Speaker, that's my procedural question. Thank you.
For the intervention. First of all, there is a scheduled plan to swear in new members, new ex-officio members who have not been sworn in during this plenary, and that is going to happen. Two, I wanted to inform that the position of the chair of the Council of Ministers is not necessarily to be twinned by the membership of the House. It happens that for any member, for anybody to introduce a document personally in the House, they have to be members. That's why we have ministers as ex-officio members. But a partner state that is holding the chairmanship, the chair of the summit, can appoint any cabinet minister to be the council chair, not necessarily the ex-officio member of Eala. For convenience, it just happens that all council chairs happens to be our ex-officio members. It works very well for us, but it is not a requirement. So the member introducing the bill on behalf of the chairperson is the member of the House, so there is nothing irregular about that. Honorable Dr. Makame.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm standing on a point of procedure, Mr. Speaker, and specifically I'm referring to Rule 26(4) of the House, and I'm doing so in so just and faithful a manner as when we pray, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker,
Which rule do you refer to?
26(4).
Okay.
Mr. Speaker, when you are making communications to this House, you mentioned about the incident of us losing one of the founding members of the summit and the ESC. And effectively, Mr. Speaker, the ESC has lost a political giant, a founder, and a cornerstone to this community. And Mr. Speaker, we pay tribute by standing, but as a House, I would be in an opinion that if you can slot in a moment for members to pay tribute orally, because President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi of the Republic of Kenya was the founding member of the Permanent Tripartite Commission, and was the member who proposed the elevation of the...
Dr. Makabe, you just don't need to justify because it is a straightforward thing.
Thank you, Mr.
Now let me try to advise. In terms of rules, you are quite in order. But by way of advice, we are talking about a former member of the summit, the founding member of the community. And you had indicated to me you needed to move a motion with the resolutions that we can even pass. Don't you think it's a better idea than just an impromptu debate that will not end in any formal document? Yes, and actually it's not just you. I think there was also an Honorable Kennedy Mukulia. They had all indicated to me they needed to move a motion. If you still have that plan, it's better. So we can have a formal document and send it to his family than just debating without that kind of ending. What do you think about it?
Mr. Speaker, that is in order, but you know, the other one for the resolutions was that probably we use this motion now because the East African community...
No, it will preempt the appetite of it. Take time, as you indicated to me, do a motion together with the Honorable Kennedy, bring it here. We shall dedicate enough time for this plenary, debate it, conclude, send it to the family of the late president. That is the befitting way to handle that situation. Agree? Thank you very much. Yes.
Item number 5 on the order paper, report of the Committee on Accounts on the East African Item number 5 on the order paper, report of the Committee on Accounts on the East African Community audited accounts for the financial year 2017-2018. By way of
Honorable
motion.
Chair, Committee on Accounts.
Mr. Speaker, we don't have the report.
We don't have the report? How many members don't have the report? Let me make this announcement. The office of the clerk. You know, we have had this program for a very long time. And you are actually the ones who proposed the order paper for me. So you know the documents we needed to use. Why is it that up to now we don't have the report? You proposed the order paper. The copies are coming, but why do they have to come at the last minute? Now, there is a serious problem of inefficiency here that I will deal with because this report was done since last week. the office of the clerk proposed to me that the item comes today and the copies were not done. So that is a matter that I will deal with. But for the time being, do we proceed with the reading or do we wait for the copies to be made? We proceed as is that let's find a so we can try and work under the circumstances. We shall continue to make copies. So, Chair, please.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable
No, yes, you just move the motion. You move a motion first. Eh? Move.
Okay. Honorable Speaker, thank you for the floor. I would like now to move a motion that the report of the Committee on Accounts on the audited accounts of the East African Community for the year ending 30th June 2018 is now presented before the House.
Seconder. Yes, Honorable Dr. Wijema, Honorable Pierre Claver, and all the members are standing. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, with your permission, I've learned from my experience reading these reports on my own, 150 pages, 170 pages, and then leaving here with no voice. With your permission, this time I have nominated some members of my committee to help me with the reading. I hope that you won't mind if we interchange fluidly with your permission.
Please, as you please.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Please, members, let's move to page 2, which is the executive summary. Honorable Speaker, during the review and consideration of the Audit Commission report on the financial statements of the East African community organs and institutions for the year ended 30th June 2018, issues presented were examined and recommendations were proposed. The committee had a budget of $115,098,773, and the actual expenditure was $66,918,844 US. Hence, an overall budget performance of 58%. Suffice it to note is the fact that the donor funding increased from $14 million US in the financial year 2016-2017 to $17,752,708 United States dollars in the financial year of 2017-2018. In the whole, EAC institutions, projects, and programs continue to face challenges of low absorption due to delayed or non-remittance of funds. This calls for proper budgetary planning, coherence, and consistency in the budgeting process. It is imperative that the EAC puts in place an EAC single projects coordination unit to ensure proper managing of the growing EAC projects. Coupled with that, it's crucial that EAC puts in place an annual forum involving all the institutions, organs, and the Council to appraise and evaluate itself in the performance of its programs and activities. The follow-up process will be a great opportunity for the institutions and organs to review the progress being made in the implementation of the integration agenda of the EAC. It will also assess the challenges faced and devise strategies of overcoming them. Management will also seize the unique opportunity to engage the community in an improvement process. Of great concern to us was the non-implementation of the previous audit recommendations, non-provision of quarterly reports of the Assembly as recommended in the previous reports, delayed recruitment and filling of vacant positions which have remained a persistent challenge. Another concern is the procurement process in the EAC organs and institutions, which continue to contravene procurement procedures. Furthermore, gross irregularities were noted in recruitment and award of short-term contracts, a process that contravenes EAC staff rules and regulations. Another concern was the prolonged period of redundancy of the projects of LVBC. The Republic of Kenya purchased a water hyacinth machine and was finally delivered to Kisumu on 12 April 2016. According to the management of the LVBC LVAMP2, this machine has never been put to use during the years of redundancy bringing the years of redundancy to 3. And sadly, the weeds continue to eat the lake away each day that passes. Further concern was that the EAC organs and institutions did not recover from revenue authorities or partner states accumulated VAT refunds, leading to forfeiture of activities that could have undertaken using these VAT resources. The EAC institutions review process has also been a persistent problem at EAC. The EAC institution review process has also been a persistent problem at EAC. It is 10 years since the EAC embarked on an institutional review exercise. Many programs of the institution are dependent on its recommendations, yet there is no optimism on when the Council of Ministers will conclude this important matter. Nevertheless, the accounts presented a fair position in all the material aspects for the EAC organs and institutions for the year ended 30th June 2018. Their financial performance and cash flows for the period were in accordance with international public sector accounting standards. Page 4 is the list of acronyms, and 5. Page 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are the table of contents, and the Honorable Jean-Claude Burimiabu will now take us through the introduction.
Oh, that's very brief, Chair.
But
it's okay, it's all right.
I'm using my committee members as efficiently as possible.
You are being very economical with your voice.
Karibu.
At this speed, every member of the committee will have to read it. No members, isn't it too hot in the chamber? Maybe because of my robe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I also take this time to thank Honorable Chair of our committee for the trust. Then, with the introduction, in accordance with the provisions of Article 134, Section 3 of the Treaty for the Establishment of the East African Community, EAC, the Committee on Accounts, while in Arusha, Tanzania, from 27th October to 13th November 2019, received the audited accounts of the following East African community institutions, organs, agencies, and the projects for the financial year ended 30th June 2018. The following are the institutions and organs of East African community audited. We audited the East African Legislative Assembly, the East African Court of Justice, the East African Community Secretariat, the East African Lake Victoria Basin Commission, the East African Lake Victoria Fisheries Organization, the Inter-University Council of East Africa, the East African Civil Aviation Safety and Security Oversight Agency, the East African Kiswahili Commission, the East African Health Research Commission, the East African Science and Technology Commission, the East African Competition Authority, the East African Community Information and Communication Technology Systems, the East African Capacity Building Foundation Project, Lake Victoria Environmental Management Project, the East African Financial Sector Development and Regionalization Project, and the East African Medicines Regulatory Harmonization Project. Right Honorable Speaker, in accordance with Rule 74, Section 1, Rule 81C, and Annex 5A of the Rules of Procedure of the Assembly, Right Honorable Speaker, referred to the reports to the Committee on Accounts for review. The committee met for this purpose and produced a report. The report covers the committee's findings, observations, and recommendations on the main issues raised. It is divided into the following three parts. Part 1, the key audit findings on the financial statements of the East African Community Secretariat, projects and the programs for the year ended 30th June 2019. Part 2 is about audit findings on the financial statements of ESC organs and institutions for the year ended 30th June 2018. Part 3, general observation, recommendations, and acknowledgement. About methodology, while undertaking this activity, the committee used the following methodology in analyzing and reviewing the audited accounts for the financial year ended 30th June 2018. We reviewed the following documents. First is the treaty for the establishment for the East African Community, the 5th East African Community Development Strategy, the strategic plans of the East African Community organs and institutions. We reviewed the rules of procedure of the East African Legislative Assembly, the East African Community Financial Rules and Regulations, East African Community Staff Rules and Regulations, the Audit Commission reports of the accounts of the East African Community organs, institutions, and programs for the year ended 30th June 2018. The committee also interacted with the following stakeholders. We interacted with members of the Audit Commission, the Council of Ministers of East African Community, and the management teams of the East African Community organs, institutions, and programs. Starting with Part 1, the key audit findings on the financial statements of East African Community Secretariat projects and programs. Right Honorable Speaker, this section includes findings and recommendations on the weaknesses identified during audits in the areas that need immediate management attention for improvement. 1.1, EAC's budgetary and expenditure review. 1.1.1, funding sources. The budget of East African Community is mainly funded through partner states' contributions and development partners' support. The activities of the community during the year under review were funded by a budgetary appropriation of USD 115,099,773. Original budget was USD 110 and 13,000, and the supplementary budget of USD 4,097,000 compared to USD 103 million and 52,000 in 2016-2017. This was an increase of USD 11,000,058, or an approximately of 11% as shown below in the table. Table 1, funding sources of East African Community for 2017-2018. So the budget sources are as follows. They are funds from member states' annual contribution, which have increased from 41 million 890,538 USD to 50,226,522, which is equal to 19.8%. Member states' other contributions through other ministries, they also increased from 5,674,839 to 6,397,685, which also is equal to 12.74%. Member states' universities also, the contribution reduced from 431,923 USD to 435 USD, which is a reduction of 29.75%. Money from general reserve was reduced to a level of 98.11%. It reduced from 6,354,245 to 120,000 US dollars. So money from development partners increased from 48,864,144 US dollars to 57,717,22.8, which is an increase of 18%, 18.12%. Miscellaneous revenue increased at a level of 9.32% from 305,440 US dollars in 2016-2017 to 333,903 US dollars in 2017-2018. The committee also observed that that expected development partners' contribution, which accounted for about 50% of the budget, increased by 18% from USD 48.9 million in 2016-2017 to USD 57.7 million in 2017-2018. 1.2 remittance of our new partner states contribution. An amount of USD 20 million .27 remained unremitted from partner states for the financial year 2017-2018, compared to US dollars 7 million .85 in 2016-2017, as depicted below. Out of the total amount of US dollars 16.89 million, or 83.34% was due from the Republic of Burundi and the Republic of South Sudan. The table below, table 2, is about remittance of a new partner states contribution. Republic of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, you will excuse me, I will only read the arrears or the contribution due in 2016-2018 and the total outstanding for the same year 2017-2018 by partner states. The Republic of Kenya was due to remit 9,695,500 1,577, and it only remitted 9.71%. United Republic of Tanzania was due to remit 9,685,577, and he remitted 81.26%. The Republic of Uganda also was due to remit 13,023, and he remitted 57.07%. Republic of Rwanda was due to remit 10,000,084, and it remitted 77.2%. Republic of Burundi was due to remit 13.25 million, and remitted only 3.52%. Republic of South Sudan was due to remit 9,000,017, and it remitted 10.89%. In total, the amount what was due to be remitted by partner states was equal to 68,000,069, and they only remitted an amount of 36.35, which is equal to 52.92%, with an outstanding of 20,000,000.26. 1.1.3 is about budget performance. Honorable Speaker, during the year under review, the total appropriated budget of the community, inclusive of supplementary budget, was USD 115.17 million US dollars. However, the organs and institutions of the community, excluding Kasoa, managed to absorb only USD 62.85 million, representing an overall absorption rate of 55%. The implication was that the community did not implement more than half of the planned activities during the year under review. Table 3 shows the budget performance by East African community organs and institutions. East African Community Secretariat had a budget of 62,436,985. So the absorption rate was 50%. East African Court of Justice had a budget of 4,140,166. It absorbed 78%. East African Legislative Assembly had a budget of 17,000,000.9, and it absorbed 78% also. Lake Victoria Basin Commission had a budget of 14 million, and it absorbed only 33%. Inter-University Council of East Africa had a budget of 6.7 million, and it absorbed 60%. Lake Victoria Fisheries Organization had a budget of 2.5 million, with an absorption rate of 51%. East African Science and Technology Commission had a budget of 1,000,000.7, and the absorption rate was 82%. East African Kiswahili Commission had a budget of 1.5 million, with an absorption rate of 75%. East African Health Research Commission had a budget of 2.6 million with an absorption rate of 60%. East African Competition Authority had a budget of 1.3 million and it absorbed 31%. So the total appropriation budget was 115 million.1, and the total absorption rate is 55%. 1.1.4 budget trend analysis. That, Honorable Speaker, the gross estimated expenditure decreased over the last 5 years from USD 133.3 million in 2013-2014 to US dollars of 115.17 million in 2017-2018. This was approximately a decrease of 12% over the last 5-year period. The figure number 1 shows the trend of the total budget since 2013-2014 to 2017-2018. 1.1.5 Partner States Contribution. The partner states' due contributions have changed over the last 5 years, with 34% increase from USD 38.07 million in 2013-2014 to USD 57.38 million in 2017-2018, as depicted below. However, the committee observed that the contributions paid have been declining, leading to an increase in contribution outstanding from USD 2.18 million in 2013-2014 to USD 20 million.26 in 2017-2018. These amounts have been settled in each of the following years. Nevertheless, unpredictability of funding implies that the East African community cannot properly plan and implement its activities, and which has negative significant effect on delivery of its mandate. Figure 2 shows partner states contribution trend since 2013-2014 to 2017-2018. 1.1.6 Development partners contributions. But, Honorable Speaker, receipts from development partners have been declining from USD 29.37 million in 2013-2014 to USD 20.10 million in 2017-2018, representing an average of a decrease of 32% in funding. This implies that some of the activities that were to be implemented using donor support have not been implemented. The community further observed the low absorption of development partners fund. Figure 3 shows the development partners contribution trend since 2013-2014 to 2017-2018. 1.2 Status of implementation of the previous audit recommendations. During the financial year period ending 30th June 2018, a total of 201 recommendations relating to the 11 organs and institutions audited by the Audit Commission were outstanding. From the assessment of these recommendations, the committee noted that 73, which is equal to 36% of these, were fully implemented. 74, which is equal to 7% of recommendations, were under implementation. 48, which is equal to 24%, were not implemented, while 6, which is equal to 3%, were overtaken by events. The committee recommends to the Council of Ministers to ensure that all outstanding recommendations are fully implemented, such that the deficiencies and weaknesses observed in the audit reports are addressed. 1.3, human resources gaps in all organs and institutions. The East African community continues to operate with unfilled positions. Review of 6 institutions with a total of 173 available positions reported in the financial statements of the period ended 30th June 2018 out of 11 organs and institutions of the East African community show that only 79%, not 79, which is equal to 46% of the positions have been filled, while 94, which is equal to 54% of the positions have not been filled. Thus, operating at below 50% human resource capacity. The table 4 shows the human resources. East African Health Research Commission had available position of 34, but only 7 have been appointed, leading to a percentage of 79% of unfilled positions. East African Kiswahili Commission had 31 positions, but only 6 were filled, with 81% of unfilled positions. Inter-University Council for East Africa had 51 positions, but they only filled 35 positions with 31% of unfilled positions. Isteco had 25 positions, but only 56% were appointed. East African Competition Authority, all the 2 positions were filled. For Kasowa, they had 30 positions, but only 50% were filled. A number of challenges due to the human resource gaps, such as lack of segregation of duties, failure to accomplish tasks, low budget allocation to core activities, and understaffed projects coordination unity have been attributed to staff shortage. According to the O2 management, the current staffing challenges are largely caused by funding issues facing the organs and institutions of East African community. The community recommendation, whereas the committee considered the management response, it recommends to the Council of Ministers to prioritize the very crucial human resource matter because it is affecting the operations of and the performance of the East African community organs and institutions. 1.4, legal instruments not ratified by some or all partner states. Honorable Speaker, during the year under review, the Audit Commission revealed that 9 protocols have not been ratified by some or partners or all partner states that were brought into force despite having been concluded by the East African Community Management. Whereas management provided an updated position as of 28th November 2018, showing the progress made by partner states, the audit observed that even in the updated positions, some protocols such as the Free Trade Area Agreement had not yet been ratified. Committee recommendation, as a matter of urgency, The committee recommends that recommends the Council of Ministers to fast-track the ratification of the legal instruments by all the EAC partner states. 1.5, operationalization of the pillars of the East African community integration. That Honourable Speaker, as reported in its previous reports on the East African Community Secretariat, the Audit Commission audited the progress made by East African Community in the operationalization of the pillars of the East African Community integration. The committee took note of the substantial achievement made by the community in line with the East African Community Development Strategy, but remains concerned about the predominant challenges of the slow progress facing the community towards the achievements of the set objectives regarding operationalization of the 4 pillars of the East African Community integration, namely customs union, common market, monetary union, and the political federation. Hence, the committee recommends that East African community should fast-track and put in place measures for the operationalization and harmonization of all national and regional policies, regulations, and laws in order to expedite the full realization of the pillars of East African community integration. 1.6, management of legal cases submitted to the East African Community Court of Justice, ESG. Honourable Speaker, as at 21st November 2018, the number of pending cases had increased in the first division and the appellate division from 39 in 2017 to 60 in 2018. And these cases were pending for periods ranging from less than 1 year to 5 years. The East African community, the ESG employs judges who serve on ad hoc basis, which has contributed to the delays in finalization of cases. The committee takes note of the management's initiative to address this challenge by taking measures such as facilitating the court to conduct extraordinary sessions for 2 weeks on a limited budget. This matter has also been brought to the attention of the Council of Ministers for redress, as the committee recommends to the Council of Ministers that this challenge should be addressed as a matter of urgency. 1.7, status of assent of EAC bills. As at 30th June 2018, East African Legislative Assembly, Eala, had 27 bills dating back to 2012, which were pending assent by the East African community heads of state. The position provided to the committee by the Office of the Clerk as of 9th October 2019 indicated that 17 bills have not been assented to by any partner state. 3 bills have been assented to by 3 partner states out of 5 partner states. 3 bills have been assented to by 4 partner states out of 5 partner states. 3 bills have been assented to by 2 partner states out of 5 partner states. And 1 bill has been assented to by only 1 out of 5 partner states. Management of Eala informed the committee that Eala Commission, in its meeting held on 8th November 2018, discussed this matter with the ministers responsible for EAC affairs and agreed that the ministers will henceforth ensure follow-up and give feedback on EAC bills submitted to heads of state. The committee strongly recommends
that Eala Commission should regularly follow up on this matter with the Council of Ministers to ensure that the assent of the bills is done in a timely manner. 1.8, withdrawals from the General Reserve. The General Reserve Fund has declined from USD 3.28 million as at 30th June 2018 to USD 764,400 as reported as at 30th June 2018. The decline is mainly attributed to withdrawals from the fund by the Secretariat and other organs and institutions of the EAC. Moreover, some of these withdrawals were made without an approval of the Council of Ministers. For example, the withdrawal of USD 1,000,000.11 was effected for Eala on 31st January 2018 without the Council of Ministers' approval. Management explained that these withdrawals subsequently obtained the retrospective approval of the Council of Ministers, and the refunds were subsequently done. The committee remains concerned that the withdrawals, coupled with declining reserve funds balances, signifies a weak control environment that needs to be improved to ensure that all withdrawals and the refunds are done in an appropriate manner. 1.9, East African Development Bank. The Audit Commission reported in its previous reports that the East African Development Bank, EADB, with about 90% of its shares are owned by partner states, has not been audited by the Audit Commission. The committee took cognizance of the directive of the 17th Ordinary Heads of State Summit, which was held on 2nd March 2016 in Arusha, in which the Council of Ministers were to review the EADB Charter and streamline it into the main structures of EAC. The Audit Commission noted that the 9th meeting of the Sectoral Council for Finance and Economic Affairs constituted a technical working group to work on this directive. The technical working group met in Kampala from 30th September to 4th October 2019. The committee is yet to release its report. As a matter of urgency, the committee recommends that the Council of Ministers should engage the Sectoral Council of Finance and Economic Affairs that forms the governing council of DADB so as to address this issue. 1.10, tax receivables from partner states to EAC organs and institutions. Honorable Speaker, the committee analyzed and reviewed the tax receivables from partner states to EAC organs and institutions. It noted that partner states had not granted VAT exemption to the organs and institutions in the jurisdiction as required under Article 4th and Article 4D of the EAC Headquarters Agreement. They would subsequently claim the VAT refunds from revenue collecting authorities of the respective partner states. As of 30th June 2019, EAC organs and institutions had not received the refunds amounting to USD 3,879,237 as indicated in the table below. I will also read only the name of partner states and the total due of the VAT. Tanzania, as of 30th June 2018, Tanzania had a total of receivables amounting to 2,887,824.6 US dollars. Kenya had 403,363.06 US dollars. Uganda had 430,238.003. Burundi had 86,900.63 US dollars. Rwanda had 67,420.1 US dollars. South Sudan had only 1,897.89 US dollars. And the other institutions outside the EAC had due receivables of 1,593.59 US dollars. So the total receivables is equal to 3,879,237.9 US dollars. In the table 6, it shows tax receivables analyzed per EAC institutions, per partner states, and aging analysis as at 30th June 2019. These are the updated version of the receivables. Tanzania has got up to 30th June 2018. Right Honourable Speaker, I seek permission to skip this one, and members can also read through the table because it is clear. The same for the other tables, the following tables, members can read for themselves. They are giving only details about the previous table. So the committee observations on page 22. One, a lot of money due to the communities being held by revenue collecting bodies, which is denying EAC organs and institutions access to the requisite funds to implement their programs. Number two, the VAT refunds vary from one partner state to another. This has created discrepancies in the amounts the different organs and institutions remit to the revenue collecting bodies. Number three, whereas the headquarters agreement guarantees organs and institutions of the East African community are exempt from paying VAT for goods and services. Governments have insisted for payment of VAT in the anticipation that revenue collecting bodies would reimburse, which has not been done. The committee observes that this is against Article 138, Section 1 and 2 of the treaty, and directly contradicts the headquarters agreements. Therefore, committee recommendation is as follows. The committee recommends the following. One, as a matter of urgency, Council should ensure that partner states directly and immediately remit the following amounts to the various organs and institutions of the EAC. The United Republic of Tanzania has to remit 2.8 million US dollars. Republic of Kenya is 403,000. Uganda 403,000.2. Burundi 86.9 thousand. Rwanda 67.4 thousand, South Sudan 1,000.8, and out in the other institutions outside the East African community had to remit 1,593.59 US dollars. Recommendation number 2, as recommended in previous and other reports, the Council should ensure that it concludes and ratifies the immunities and privileges protocol such that there is uniform harmonization of the privileges and immunities that are accorded to EAC organs and institutions across the partner states. 1.11, weaknesses in internal controls. Audit, Right Honorable Speaker, audit review of the internal control system and the control environment revealed that EAC Secretariat and its organs and institutions suffered from inadequate staffing capacity, which led to limited segregation of duties. Furthermore, management had not ensured the robust use of information technology systems, and such that the IT department lacked a governance structure, strategic plan, as well as policies and procedures. The IT systems were also not integrated, and the IT structure, placement, and staff capacity building had not been harnessed to drive East African Community Secretariat's strategic objectives. The above internal control weaknesses undermined management efforts in the prudent use of financial resources. Thus, the committee reiterates its previous recommendation on this matter and further adds, number 1, that processes, duties, and laws that relate to the core functions in the accounts, procurement, and ICT departments are clearly segregated to minimize elements of fraud occurring in these areas. Number 2, that increased oversight and constant monitoring should be undertaken. Internal controls without oversight is not to the required standards. The management of EAC has been dormant and has not performed its roles in establishing strong internal controls. Management should therefore diligently perform its functions by ensuring that the various departments of EAC organs and institutions are constantly and closely monitored in order to ensure that they are complying with the established guidelines and procedures of EAC. Part 2 of this report is about the current year audit findings on the financial statements of the EAC Secretariat projects and the programs. The audit of EAC Secretariat 2.1.1 is about governance issues. Query number 1 is 2.1.1.1, status of implementation of the previous year's recommendations. The Audit Commission reported that upon thorough assessment of the status on implementation of the previous audit recommendations, it revealed that 44% of the audit recommendations made in the financial year 2016-2017 were not implemented as at the time of audit. In addition, the status of implementation of audit recommendations for the financial year ended 30th June 2017 is presented in the table below. 32% of the recommendation were implemented, 24% were not implemented, 37% were partially implemented, and 70% were overtaken by event. which is the implication is that previous anomalies noted by the Audit Commission could have continued to recur, hence affecting the operational efficiency of the East African Community Secretariat and its projects. When the management of EAC interacted with the committee, it reported that the delays in implementations of the Audit Assembly recommendations was due to the following challenges. Number one, low and delayed disbursements of partner states' contribution, which negatively affected the implementation of the recommendations. Number two, budget with zero or sometimes negative growth and higher dependence on the unpredictable support from development partners components. Number three, delay in securing council decisions for some recommendations to be implemented. And number four, certain recommendations which require input and or to be implemented by partner states, whose speed of implementation is out of control of the EAC Secretariat. The committee's recommendation: the committee recommends that the Assembly recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to ensure that the Secretary General of the EAC, Ambassador Ripelat Fumukeko, takes appropriate action to ensure that audit recommendations are followed up and implemented promptly. This should involve examining all the factors that have hindered the implementation of the Assembly recommendations as mentioned above. 2.1.2, review of internal controls. Weaknesses, query number A, weaknesses in the fixed asset register. Honorable Speaker, I seek your permission to just read the committee's observation, read the title of the query and a committee observation, then I go direct to the recommendation. Thank you. The committee observation: having an incomplete fixed asset register is an indication of inadequate fixed asset management controls, which may result into difficulties in tracing the respective assets. Committee recommendation: the committee recommends that recommends to the Assembly that to urge the Council of Ministers to ensure that the management of EAC, number one, should ensure that all details relating to the assets in the fixed assets register are incorporated in the register to enable easy identification, analysis, and management of the assets. Number two, as a matter of fact, the function of the estates departments should be reinstated into the EAC structures to ensure proper controls, tracing, and monitoring of the assets inventory of the EAC. Query number B, expenses not captured in the payroll system. Committee observation. The committee observed that the payroll expenses reported in the financial statements may not be properly monitored in the system. Two, the differences noted show that there are no proper controls with regard to capturing data from a human resource information management system to the Sunset system. Sun system, not Sunset, I'm sorry. Number three, this could lead to fraudulent transactions and the conduit for channeling of illicit funds from EAC payment system and cast suspicions on the management of EAC. Committee recommendations. Committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to ensure that, number one, all the payroll expenses are captured in the human resource information management systems. Two, to institute disciplinary measures against the following officers for failure to ensure the capture expenses in the payroll system. Number 1 is the Director of Finance, Mr. Juvenal Ndimurirgo. Number 2 is the Director of Human Resources, Mrs. Luz Simba. Query number 3 is about expenditure incurred after the commitment cutoff period. Committee observations. Irregularities caused by non-adherence of the commitments to the expenditure controls are likely to cause budget compliance problems. Committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers that 1. The Secretary General of EAC, Ambassador Liberat Mfumukeko, the Deputy Secretary General, Engineer Stephen Mulote, the Director of Finance, Mr. Juvenal Ndimurirgo, and the Principal Accountant, Mr. Magadu Godefrey, should at all times observe the budget cutoff principle prescribed by the Financial Procedures Manual 2013. Query number D, absence of controls on authorization and approval of journal vouchers. Committee observations. The absence of adequate and effective controls on the journals subjected the East African Community financial statements to a risk of material misstatements, either due to Eala or fraud. Thus, committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to direct the Deputy Secretary General in charge of Finance and Planning, Engineer Stephen Mulote, and the Director of Finance, Mr. Juvenal Ndimurirgo, to put in place proper controls and procedures with regard to journal entries vouchers, so as to enhance and ensure their cleanliness and reliability of information included in the financial statements. Query number E, payment from the General Reserve without approval of the Council of Ministers. Let's jump to the committee observations on page 28. The committee observes that through there may arise urgent and the critical factors that might require urgent funding, withdrawal of funds from the General Reserve without approval of the Council of Ministers undermines the effectiveness of controls relating to management of a General Reserve Fund. This is likely to create room for malpractices, which may be an indication of a management override of controls. The resultant effect is that it will undermine the good governance principles set up to ensure the proper functioning of the institutions, and it could be a recipe for causing financial mayhem at EAC. As committee recommends the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to ensure that the Secretary General of EAC, Ambassador Liberat Mfumukeko, number 1, should comply with available controls with regard to utilization of a General Reserve Fund, even if they are genuine and deserving reasons for making withdrawals from the General Reserve. And number 2, ensure that a retrospective Council decision should always be obtained from whenever withdrawals are made from the General Reserve. Query number F, expenditure or commitments made without having funds. Committee observation. The committing expenditures without having funds to pay might lead to loss of confidence to the community by the suppliers when not paid timely. Committee recommendation. The committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to direct the Secretary General of EAC, Ambassador Liberat Mfumukeko, and the Deputy Secretary General of Finance and Administration, Engineer Stephen Mulote, to be held accountable for incurring the above expenses without having funds, EAC is further advised to note income expenses in the absence of funds as required in the Financial Procedures Manual. 2.1.3, review of the corporate governance. Query number 2.1.3.1, risk management. The committee observation. The committee observed the following. Number one, the EAC Secretariat is prone to potential operational risks as it may not be able to assess and monitor the risks it's facing. Number two, the risk events may not be tracked and monitored, and the planning for eventualities may not be. Number three, different departmental operational manuals may not provide for procedures of detecting, managing, and handling risks. This is likely to lead to penalties and losses out of non-compliance with the registrations, regulations, and other statutory obligations. Number four, flaws are likely due to lack of preventive internal controls. And number five, institutional targets might not be attained due to lack of transparency and good corporate governance. Committee recommendations. The committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to ensure that the Secretary General of the EAC, Ambassador Liberty Mfumukeko, should, number one, put in place risk management committee to safeguard the community from potential risks. Number two, ensure that risk management features in the decision-making process and should provide for monitoring and reporting of risk-related issues at various management levels to the Audit and Risk Committee. Number three, endeavor to regularly carry out the process of risk identification timely to avoid the consequences that the community might face by failing to identify the risks timely. Number four, regularly assess the risk to be able to implement appropriate mitigation measures and responses for risk which are facing the community. And number five, conducts workshops accordingly as required by the risk management framework so that staff get the required knowledge to address an impending risk. Number six, East African community should ensure that a risk register is in place for proper monitoring and evaluation. Query number 2.1.3.2, review of EAC development strategy for the period 2016-2017 to 2020-2021 and the goals assessment. The committee observation. Without having a mechanism for evaluation and monitoring, the committee will not be in a position to effectively assess and take proactive action on undertaken activities. Number two, furthermore, without having objectively measurable activities in the annual plan, it will be difficult for the community to measure whether it has been efficient on implementing planned activities. Number three, Regulation 14 of the EAC Financial Rules and Regulations obligates the EAC to establish the Planning and the Budget Committee headed by the Deputy Secretary General in charge of Planning and Finance as its chairperson. As reported above, the committee does not regularly meet to prepare, direct, review, scrutinize, and recommend the EAC budget process. First, committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to ensure that the Secretary General of EAC, Ambassador Liberat Fumukeko, should, number one, as a matter of priority and urgency, the Planning and the Budget Committee should play a critical role in the planning and the budget process for the EAC. Number two, when planning and allocating resources of EAC, resources should be aligned to priority activities that are smart and result-oriented. Number three, ensure that it reviews the available development strategy and make appropriate improvements to address the noted weaknesses. This will enable the community to assess itself and take corrective measures for it to achieve the development objectives as set out in the 5 years development strategy. And number four, furthermore, the annual operation plan should then be assessed through the annual progress report and should have objectively measurable activities such that the community can be able to measure the level of success in terms of output rather than money spent. This will enhance the community's focus on whether it is moving in the right direction in terms of achieving its planned objectives. Query number 2.1.3.4, review of planning, monitoring and evaluation. Committee of observations. The committee makes the following observations. Number one, the absence of strong and effective planning in the electorate and the monitoring and evaluation unit implies the community may not be able to robustly monitor and assess its operations. Number two, the delayed finalization of the institutional review and the job evaluation exercise has limited the community to be able to establish and implement an appropriate organizational structure in order to resolve the current staffing and recruitment challenges it is facing. Thus, the committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to ensure that, number one, management of EAC strengthens the planning directorate, including the monitoring and evaluation unit in terms of staffing to enable it to comprehensively assess the efficiency and the effectiveness of all aspects of the community's operations, functions, and its programs. And number two, EAC management produces and finalizes the annual report in a timely manner to enable better, thoughtful, and informed decision-making. Query number 2.1.3.5, delay in implementation of Council of Ministers' decisions and directives. Committee observations. Non-implementation of Council